Michael Savage.
Afternoons 3 to 7.
On Talk 910 KNEW.
And online at 910KNEW.com.
Warning. The Michael Savage Show contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Here is Michael Savage.
This is not a week to be divisive, and this is not a week to be opposing things. It's very challenging this week to do anything more than applaud and recognize that it's historic.
The coming political pilgrimage to Washington is similar to another grand event in both size and preparation. The Hajj.
It sounds like freedom for Ignacio Ramos and Jose Campion, those two former Border Patrol agents. Their case has become something of a cause celeb. Now President Bush, in one of the final acts of his administration, has commuted their sentences.
I'll just call it Chocolate City. Can we do that? P-Funk, Chocolate City.
Here's what we've been discussing today on the Savage Nation. The curious and sensitive case of Obama's mixed-race heritage. The far left and the far right are playing racial politics with Obama's presidency before he's even inaugurated. Racist liberals are pointing out his mixed-race heritage because they feel he isn't black enough. They will blame anything bad he does on his white genes. Racist conservatives are pointing out his mixed-race heritage as well. They will attribute anything good he does to his white genes and anything bad he does to his black genes. Martin Luther King Day is today. Does Martin Luther King deserve his own holiday? Do you think that Martin Luther King Jr. was more important than Abraham Lincoln? Should Martin Luther King Day be rejected in favor of a new holiday called Civil Rights Day? Today, Bush commuted the sentence of Ramos and Campion, the two Border Patrol agents who were chasing a drug dealer, shot the drug dealer in the behind, and went to jail for 11 years for doing their job. Do you think Bush should have pardoned them, as well as giving them, in essence, amnesty? Is this a case of too little too late? In your mind, does this lessen Bush's liberal legacy, or is this just a token move? Okay, moving on. Now that Barack Obama is so close to coming into office, like a day away, he's promised to create millions of green jobs. And he's promised to do everything in his power to combat so-called global warming, even though we're going through a freezing spell. Well, even John McCain promised that if elected, he would be fighting what he called climate change. You know what my position on this is. Do I believe the climate can change? Of course. The climate has changed and will continue to change. But it's not a man-made phenomenon. A very smart man who has his facts straight in this matter is Selwyn Duke, a columnist who can be found at renewamerica.com. Selwyn, thanks for being back on the Savage Nation.
Hi, Michael. It's great to be on the show again. Michael, we hear a lot about so-called global warming, and politicians can't talk enough about carbon taxes and credits and cleaner technologies. But are they just fiddling while Rome freezes? What I mean is, if the climate were a sentient adversary with a will, he just might be laughing right now. Because while mankind is running around doing a Chicken Little worrying about anthropogenic global warming, many scientists tell us that nature just might be preparing an attack we least expect. Another ice age. And for sure, many Americans feel like they're already in one with the winter we're having. Just consider this. Parts of Alaska have experienced temperatures reaching 78 degrees below zero. North Dakota had record December snow. A Minnesota sled dog race was actually canceled due to heavy snow. And Ohio ski resorts have called a recent winter storm, quote, a stimulus package for their industry, unquote. Yet, critics may point out that this is anecdotal evidence and thus not scientifically significant. And this would be true only, in this case, the science just may coincide with the anecdotes. As to this, the Russian newspaper Pravda Online wrote just recently, quote, Many sources of data which provide our knowledge base of long-term climate change indicate that the warm, 12,000-year-long Holocene period will rather soon be coming to an end, and then the Earth will return to Ice Age conditions for the next 100,000 years, unquote. Now, I'm inclined to believe this. Why? Because unlike anthropogenic global warming theory, whose predictions rest on the unprecedented and unproven, that is, a great climatic shift due to man's activities, this is less a prediction and more just a relation of natural cycles. It's much like if a man told you in August that due to human activities it was going to be warmer in January, while another man just smiled and said it would be colder, same as usual. Whose words would you likely heed? Well, given that you know about the cycles called seasons, you'd probably break out winter wear and not your swim trunks, I think. Well, likewise, the world also experiences much longer seasons, to put it figuratively. For example, science has identified 1,500-year cycles of warming and cooling. But the seasons, or cycles, in question here are even longer and more profound. Extended ice ages interrupted by relatively short warm periods. As Pravda explains, quote, ice cores, ocean sediment cores, the geologic record, and studies of ancient plant and animal populations all demonstrate a regular cyclic pattern of ice age glacial maximums, which each last about 100,000 years, separated by intervening warm interglacials, each lasting about 12,000 years, unquote. This is the pattern, and the old adage, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, applies to the planet as well as to people. Thus, unlike with anthropogenic global warming, it's not a matter of if another ice age will occur, only when. And when will this be? Experts are divided. Many believe it's only 50 to 150 years away, while the most optimistic among them say it may still be 1,000 or even 10,000 years off. Yet others bear a more ominous message, that it has already begun. Now, I know what you might be thinking. These seem much like the dubious predictions of global warming fearmongers. Yet one prediction is ironclad, and that is, an ice age world is a truly scary scenario. Now, is this statement just the twin brother of anthropogenic global warming alarmism? Well, if it is, it's the good twin. The reality is that, despite the dire warnings about the perils of a hotter Earth, such a prospect is far more appealing than a cooling one, as such an environment is actually highly conducive to the flourishing of life. As the Center for Global Food Issues points out, quote, a warmer planet has beneficial effects on food production. It results in longer growing seasons, more sunshine and rainfall, while summertime high temperatures change little. And a warmer planet means milder winters and fewer crop-killing frosts, unquote. Then there is the matter of carbon dioxide. If we listened to anthropogenic global warming alarmists, we'd believe it was a poison akin to cyanide gas or something. But in reality, it's actually a vital element of our atmosphere. Hey, higher levels of carbon dioxide encourage the growth of plant life. As the Center for Global Food Issues says, quote, based on nearly 800 scientific observations around the world, a doubling of CO2 from present levels would improve plant productivity on average by 32% across species, unquote. And by the way, this isn't theory, it's fact. It's precisely why botanists have long pumped CO2 into their greenhouses. Look, in reality, this is all common sense. Plants don't grow in an Arctic environment. In fact, most animals don't fare too well either. Just think about how our tropical jungles teem with millions of organisms, while the Arctic has relatively few. And if you had to play Survivor Man, you'd probably rather be dropped in the Amazon than the Yukon, right? As for the next ice age, whenever it does strike, it'll render most of the northern hemisphere inhospitable, if not uninhabitable. And for certain, we won't be able to sustain our large warm-era population using our current warm-era agricultural practices. If we're to have food, it'll have to be grown and raised indoors or via some other alternative method. We'll just have to adapt. And this is, of course, a key to surviving any radical environmental shift. But this process takes time, and that's a luxury we just may not have.